Well, Australia's done it.
I have some breaking news. Dominic Perrottet has called Chris Minns to concede defeat.
The coalition have officially been kicked off the mainland. I can only imagine how the Tasmanian government felt watching the carnage unfold on Saturday night. Heading into the New South Wales election, it felt like there were really only two possible outcomes. Either a Labor minority government or a Labor majority. With the baggage accumulated from 12 years in power, the many scandals, and the second-hand stench still following them around thanks to the Morrison years, the coalition always had the odds stacked against them. Not that it stopped the compliant media, yes, I'm looking at you, Bevan, from trying their best to bring Dom and the gang home with a wet sail. Here are a few of the key things I took away from the New South Wales election.
The campaign.
This would have to be one of the least inspiring and memorable election campaigns that I've seen in quite a while. I'd say that someone like me probably pays a little more attention to politics than the average person. And if someone like me found the whole spectacle uninspiring, I can only imagine how engaged the average voter felt in the whole process. Policy-wise, there are really no big-ticket items splitting the two major parties. Labor ran a textbook small target campaign. Their only real selling points were that they weren't the coalition and that it was time for a change. I mean, as far as selling points go, they're probably decent places to start. Their whole deal was don't make any grand statements or mistakes in the lead-up and hope that the coalition come under enough friendly fire to sink their own ship.
Media coverage.
While there was the usual cheerleading, there was also the occasional moment of clarity. Even on, and stay with me here, Sky News of all places.
This guy lost it.
In the lead up, there was at least acknowledgement of where things were headed.
I would say the level of disengagement I have seen in this election campaign, I have never seen before. A month ago, we were talking about 40% of people that didn't even know there was an election on. 2 weeks ago, that was still at 30%, and 20% was still undecided. So the level of disengagement, just not knowing the issues, that points you to the it's time factor. They certainly don't hate Dominic Perrottet at all. You don't get that sense. I haven't got that sense in any of the reporting, and the Liberal Party hasn't got that sense either. The problem for him is that I think you had a pretty clever opponent running a really small target, Anthony Albanese style campaign with, I can't even think of any big ticket items, but it means that, there is that it's time factor playing in.
That was a fair assessment.
You do get a sense it is time. I'll be bold, Kieran. I'll make a prediction. If I was going to go with my head, I would say that you're looking at a minority parliament and counting into next week. But something about this tells me that you will get a Labor majority, and we might know the result tonight. I just think the apathy in the electorate and the fact that there's no big contest, no great policy differentiation between the major parties.
It's never made more sense.
One of the absolute clear policies that polled really well throughout the election was Minns' policy on tolls. Look at the tollway seats. I'll leave it to our panel to go through all of those, but basically there's not a direction in Sydney that you don't have to pay a toll, and in an election that wasn't about very much, when somebody tells you this is the max no matter how many times the little machine goes bing, that's enough to make you go, not via a minor party at this stage, but go straight across the road to want to change the government queue.
Is this real life?
A couple of weeks ago, we were talking about how remarkable or unremarkable this campaign was. The focus groups you were doing were coming up with quote-unquote nothingness when we spoke a couple of weeks ago.
Nothingness does seem to have summed up the vibe.
Yeah, it's spotty.
Ew.
It is the way I would describe it. I think that the polls tightening, I think certainly speak to the Liberal Party running a very good sort of moderate Conservative campaign. I think that seems to be working. And so I don't think we're going to see large swings, large swathes of seats where a party can get a run on, Labor can get a run on and pick up 3 or 4 or 5 seats in a certain part of Sydney. And the demography of Sydney sort of doesn't really allow that.
The vibe that polling companies such as Redbridge reported in the lead up to the election probably goes some way to explaining why some of the poll results were a little sketchy in terms of the predicted swings. There was also some surprising honesty from Paul Murray.
I'm not entirely sure what's going to happen at this election, because for Labor to win, they've got to win 11 seats to form a majority. A lot of the margins they need to get are pretty healthy. So we're probably looking at minority in either way, depending on which way the Greens go, independents, former shooters, who knows what's going to happen. I'm not entirely sure what's going to happen at this election. Who knows what's going to happen?
But just when you think Sky News might be getting it.
I just think you're going to lose votes to the right. The Liberals are going to lose votes to the right, to One Nation.
I am a bargain basement election bot. In 2019, One Nation polled 6.9% of the vote. In 2023, they are sitting on just under 5.2%.
Underwhelming.
Some of the election night coverage was truly unhinged. Here's Peter Credlin accidentally highlighting one of the main problems with the coalition.
No, they're not Teal seats, they're actually Liberal Party seats.
That's exactly my point.
Born to rule.
No party owns a seat. As soon as any politician forgets that they are there to represent the people and not themselves, their days in politics really should be numbered. Here she falls over the other major problem for the coalition, without realising it.
He's fended off the Teals.
Well, they haven't, because I went through the fact of the money being there. I think they're a bit of a spent force after some months now in Canberra. But so you win the battle to hold 2 or 3 Teal seats, you lost the war, mate. You're out of power. And don't give me the 12 year stuff.
That's what happened federally.
Because you've got
that is what happened federally. We lost the entire election because we didn't listen.
Like the coalition, Peter Credlin has failed to listen.
It ain't good.
Over on 7, Mark Latham was having a normal one.
A seat of cannabis.
Wait, what?
A seat of cannabis.
Snoop Doggy, dog.
If the wave's coming in, it's just a question of how far up the beach you are, and Stuart Ayres already had his toes in the water.
Wise words.
A sigh of relief from Chris Minns. You know, Chris Minns on the last election was sitting on this very panel.
That's right. He was sitting over there next to me.
He was, yeah.
Absolutely pooping his pants. He was going to lose his seat at the Asian end of Cogger after Michael Daly said the Asian PhDs were taking all our jobs. And I spent a part of the night reassuring him that he was probably okay and One Nation preferences might be assisting him a little bit. But he was very, very nervous and probably resigning himself to defeat.
And over on 9, they had a wacky new way to highlight the election losers.
Now, let me introduce to you our Polly Pokey. This is a topical issue throughout this campaign. We've got that pokey from the 70s, but it is back. Let's test it out. 3, 2, 1. We send in the maroons to our poker machine. It spits out the result, and 3 X's mean they lose, as they often do. They're more into 4 X's down there, but that's the way it goes.
I think it's delusional.
On election day, at least, Sky News found the time for a live cross to a democracy sausage.
I'm going to go and try one of Diane's world famous, as she's been saying, snags. So I'll leave it with you there.
What are you going to have with the snag?
I'm actually quite plain Jane. I only like sausage in bun.
Sorry, what?
I only like sausage in bun.
Gulp.
Yeah, what she said.
I don't like any toppings, nothing. No condiments, no. No cheese. No cheese.
I don't know now. I don't know why that's controversial. But anyway, let me know, folks, if you agree. I think a lot of people do. But it's all right to be plain.
Politics is serious business.
The community independent movement.
For some reason, the media still seem to be having a hard time getting their head around the community independent movement. Simon Holmes-a-Court kindly explained why the odds are stacked even higher against independents in a state election compared to a federal one.
The financial disparity between the candidates and the major parties whose campaigns are largely taxpayer funded makes it a very different campaign from the federal election. Quite an uneven playing field.
How much money have you spent on this campaign, Simon?
So Climate 200 has only, under the New South Wales electoral laws, we're very constrained in what we can do. So we've donated to the $3,300 limit in each of the campaigns, and we've raised some money ourselves in small donations in order to support, to raise the profile of the independence movement at the state level.
They are the equivalent of a political party. Talking to us about integrity, the real integrity is to be upfront and say we're not really independents.
Yeah. So there's a huge difference. Can I jump in now after that mouthful? Yeah. Can I jump in after that mouthful? Look, there's a huge difference between the community independence movement and a political party. Climate 200 doesn't select candidates. These campaigns grew up in their communities, and the candidates have been selected by their communities. We're coming in to back them to help level the playing field against the parties, which have got the political system, the electoral system pretty much sewn up. There's $180 million of taxpayer funding that goes to the parties. Independents start with nothing. They don't get a cent before the election. We don't choose their policy. We don't have any agreement or any contract or give any policies or have any kind of requirements of candidates like parties do. Actually, if you take back that rhetoric, which might sound good, you'll actually see that there's a massive difference between us.
Election night was full of action though. We even got a car chase. Coverage the next day was, we'll put it this way, here's a Sky News talking head completely forgetting how elections work.
We don't want Labor. Now we've got Labor. Thanks, Liberals. That's what you gave us. Thanks, Matt Keane. Thanks, Dominic Perrotty. You've given us a Labor government. We don't want one. That's not what the people of New South Wales want.
That's not really how it works.
We do have Peter Dutton, who's the last hope of the side.
Delusional.
Woke has destroyed the Liberal Party. Only Peter Dutton can save it, and time is running out, let me tell you.
I think it's delusional.
Leave it to Barry Cassidy to sum things up.
The biggest question in Australian politics today, and that is what on earth has happened to the Liberal Party? The Liberal Party brand has become toxic, and the debate should be around why is that so?
And that pretty much sums up the New South Wales election for 2023.